Now we have a quorum. Sorry about that, y'all. The meeting is called to order. Roll call.
Committee Member Herman,
Here.
Committee Member Dukes, Committee Member Musgrave,
Here.
and Committee Member Winterson.
Here.
Thank you.
Does somebody want to make a motion to approve the minutes of the April 7th meeting?
I do.
I'll second that.
All right. All in favor of approving the minutes?
Aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. Public comment? Hearing none. Old business. Fossil fuel non-proliferation treaty update.
Yeah, I was just going to give an update that I went to the website and I got Eureka registered on there. So now Eureka shows as endorsing the treaty. They said they would follow up with more information and next steps. I haven't heard anything yet, but Eureka does show on there.
Beautiful. Thank you.
welcome.
Appreciate that. And then no new business. RCEA, thank you for being here. Come on up.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Richard Engel. I'm Director of Power Resources at Redwood Coast Energy Authority. I've spoken to you before, but it's been a while. So thank you for having me back. The way RCEA is organized, we have different departments. The one you might be most familiar with is the group that's called Demand Side Management, which is the group that does customer-facing programs. So they're kind of the most visible part of RCEA publicly. They, offer energy assessments and do some energy retrofits and things like that, and offer rebates and technical assistance. I work in a different department. I'm in the Department of Power Resources, and the job of myself and the team that I oversee is to run our Community Choice Energy program. I think you're already pretty familiar with the program. We're now one of 25 such programs in California, serving a little more than 1/4 of the electric load in the whole state. So this is a model that became possible in California due to legislation in the early 2000s, and makes us as a local government entity the default electricity provider for the community. So at the time that we rolled out our program in 2017, all of the existing PG&E electric accounts got moved over to RCEA unless the customer chose to opt out. We had less than 10% opt out. It was like between 7 and 8% of customers opted out, which is pretty much in line with what programs like this usually experience in California. So that was a win, and it's been a win ever since. We've been managing to keep our electric rates a little bit below PG&E's. And to offer a portfolio with more renewable and carbon-free energy in it than what PG&E offers. I have a list that I prepared actually for an internal staff meeting a few months ago when our new executive director, Beth Burks, came on board. We all just wanted to kind of get her up to speed on what our different departments have been up to and what our goals are for the future. So I just updated that list a little bit for purposes of talking to you this evening. I thought that might be a good starting point, and then I'm quite happy to answer any questions that you might have. And if you just want to jump in while I'm going down my list for clarification or details on any of these things, I'm happy to.
And to clarify just really quickly, I believe that RCEA in conjunction with Kelly already talked to the city of Eureka and got approval to go to the higher renewable mix with you guys,
That's
correct?
my understanding, yes. I think that all of the city accounts are either opted up or in the process of doing
That's
so.
what I was under the impression of. Cool.
Yeah. If you'll bear with me just for 1 second, I'm going to grab my water.
No problem. Thank you.
So running the program entails kind of 3 big areas of activity. One of them is just the power procurement itself. getting electricity to supply the community and striving to have as much of that be clean and renewable resources as possible. Another area is the customer-facing part of it, account services, which is just helping people understand the RCEA portion of their electric bill. It's all rolled in together with the PG&E charges on the bill that PG&E sends out, and sometimes people just need help navigating that. And then we get people that have, rooftop solar, net metering, or net billing tariff, as it's now called, and they have questions about that. So the account services team works with them. And then the third area is just regulatory procurement, which I never dreamed that was going to be such a big task when I came to work on this program at RCEA, but we do spend a lot of our time and energy just jumping through hoops for mostly the California Public Utilities Commission, but also the Air Resources Board, the California Energy Commission, and a little bit of federal reporting to the Energy Information Administration that does a lot of kind of data tracking about energy nationally. So with that in mind, I'll just talk about some of the things that we've done in the past year. We implemented a transition from the old net energy metering program for solar customers to what's now called net billing tariff. You're probably familiar with this, but it just kind of reset the rules on how people get compensated for energy that's generated from their rooftop solar systems. PG&E had kind of already set up how they were going to deal with that. We more or less emulated what PG&E was doing, but we do still offer somewhat more generous compensation than PG&E to the customers that generate surplus energy. We also completed a first year of being part of what's called the Percentage of Income Payment Program. So this is a program for customers that are having trouble keeping up on their electric bills and have gotten in arrears. This program has people self-report on their income levels, and they're able to get part of their arrearages forgiven. And we just rolled this out to 2 zip codes within Humboldt County, one being 95501 here in Eureka and the other being Hoopa. And those were just selected by looking at just income criteria for households. On the power procurement side, we got into a number of new contracts. We added a storage component to a solar project that we had already subscribed to that's down in Kern County. We contracted for another energy storage project in Southern California that's called Drifter. The one in Kern County is called the Sandrini Project. We also contracted for a 10-year purchase of product category 3 renewable energy certificates. This is a category of renewable certificates that are less expensive than the category 1 certificates that we usually get associated with most of our procurement. So the category 1 is electricity that's generated here inside of California and where the energy and the renewable attributes are sold together as one bundled product. Category 2 comes from outside of California. It's a little bit cheaper than category 1. And then category 3 are what are called unbundled certificates, where you can just buy the renewable energy certificates and the energy itself is being sold to a different buyer. These are still perfectly valid and can be used for part of our compliance with state requirements for renewable energy procurement, but just allows us to do so at lower cost. And with electricity bills being so high lately, we've just been looking for every way we can to still meet our renewable energy goals while keeping bills affordable for our customers. Yes.
So how much more, what percentage is level 3 then?
Do you mean in terms of cost?
Oh, no, I mean, sorry, in terms of overall usage for the organization.
It's going to be, I'd actually have to look up as a percentage of our total procurement. I don't remember right now. Let me just make a note to get back to you on that one. We had a couple of new projects come online. One of them, the really important one, is that Sandrini solar project that I already mentioned. That came online in December and is now fully operating and is providing about 35% of our total annual electricity need for our customers. So this is a single 100 megawatt project that covers about 400 acres of like retired farmland in an area where the soils weren't so good for farming anymore. So it seems like a low impact way to roll out solar energy without harming like pristine desert lands or taking productive ag lands out of production. We also are purchasing resource adequacy, which means just making capacity payments for a storage project that's actually contracted by Sonoma Clean Power, our sister agency to the south. And so we're getting some of the production from that project. We also put out some new solicitations. We issued a solicitation in December for local energy storage projects, and we've gotten in offers for that now and are going through the process of evaluating those offers, and hope to bring recommendations for contracts to our board over the next couple of months. Also, we belong to a organization called California Community Power, which is sort of a super JPA made up of 9 of the CCA programs, community choice programs like ours. We're the smallest member of that. Most of them are larger ones, like the one that serves the East Bay and one that serves San Francisco, one that serves Silicon Valley, et cetera. And that kind of gives us joint procurement power, and we're able to kind of get economies of scale and get some of our procurement through that. We put out a solicitation for...
So it's like a group purchasing organization?
It is, yeah. Yeah, it's kind of a buyer's club for
That's awesome.
CCAs. Yeah, it's been a really beneficial thing to belong to it. We've gotten some geothermal power through that, and also long duration storage, which is a special category of storage that the state has required all of the electricity sellers to procure some of. So that's batteries that can discharge at their full capacity for 8 hours or longer. And,
Does Mendocino County have a CCA?
they're part of Sonoma Clean Power.
Oh, okay, I was wondering.
So
yeah.
Sonoma County started out just serving, their program started out just serving Sonoma County, and then after a couple of years, they expanded into Mendocino. And late breaking news just in the last few weeks is that they're expanding into Lake County as well. We also relaunched a feed-in tariff, which is an offering we have to build small, meaning up to 5 megawatts. So if you can picture, it takes about 4 acres to provide a megawatt of solar. So we're talking projects that would cover 20 acres or less of land. We have special pricing that is higher than what developers could normally get for projects like this, but we're using this as a tool to try to get more projects built here locally in Humboldt County. They don't necessarily have to be solar. They could be any qualifying type of renewable energy. We have one project under contract as a feed-in tariff project right now, which is near Hydesville, just off Highway 36, and that's going to be breaking ground in the next few months and should be up and running by less than a year from now.
Is that solar?
It's a solar project, yeah, solar only without storage. So it'll be a 2 megawatt project. And then we also just last year started participating in a program called BioMat, which is Bioenergy Market Adjusting Tariff. And this is a program that has been available to the big utilities like PG&E for a few years, but only became available for our type of program, community choice programs, to participate in last year. And this allows us to pay for energy from bioenergy projects, which could mean like forest biomass, but it could also mean using methane produced from either landfills or wastewater treatment plants or dairy farms. So we are looking for opportunities to get projects built. These would have to be less than 3 megawatts. So individual projects of that size would make up a pretty small part of our power portfolio, but it's just another tool we have now for trying to get more local projects built here in Humboldt County that will provide other community benefits like waste disposal or reducing GHG emissions.
I know the county and the city are still working on figuring out how to do a robust composting program that
Yes.
meets the state's requirements. Any chance that you guys could couple of those two things?
Yes, we're actually, our Power Resources team is going to meet with Juliette Bond later this week, who's been a longtime proponent of getting projects like that built. She used to do private consulting that was really focused on food waste digester development. She's now working for RCEA, but in a different department. But we're going to pick her brain about how we might, exactly like what you said, couple those two things.
Awesome.
So yeah, thank you.
That'd be good to see.
Yeah.
Let us know if there's anything we can do on, because I know that as a board we've been, or as a committee, we've been kind of curious about that one and when that's going to roll out. So if there's anything we can do to help
Yeah.
that go.
We haven't set a date for this yet, but we're hoping in the next few months to hold a public workshop to inform people about and just promote that biomat program. I think what's challenging is finding like a public agency, say a city that has a wastewater plant or might want to do a food waste digester, or maybe the Waste Management Authority. They tend to be pretty small, lean organizations and might not have their own staff that would have all the expertise and time available to actually go through the whole application process for biomat, because it is pretty involved. And so I think it was more geared to like the bigger utilities like PG&E. It was kind of designed around them and they can provide a lot of support on their side. We're thinking it might make sense to potentially contract a consultant who could assist these small, public agencies in developing a project, connecting them with a commercial developer that could actually build the project. So we're kind of just in the exploring phase of that right now, but we're hoping to get traction on that, because under the current program, it's only going to be possible through the end of 2025 to execute new contracts for biomat. And we actually signed on to a letter asking the state to extend that deadline out several years. But in the event that that doesn't get extended, we only have, like 8 months left to get new projects up and running. Or not to get them up and running, but to get the contracts in place. They do have a couple of years following contract execution to actually build the project. So correcting what I just said. So that takes care of things that we've done recently. As far as what's happening this year or coming up, we have a pair of twin projects that are going to be starting to generate power in just a couple of months. And those are called the Foster A and Foster B projects. They're on part of the land of the old Sun Valley Floral Farm on the outskirts of Arcata. It's 7 megawatts of solar plus 2.5 megawatts of battery energy storage. And that project got its permits from it's on county land outside the city limits, and they got their permits for the project a couple of years ago and have just been plugging away at it, and it's now under construction. I just actually was out on a run and went by the site yesterday. I keep going by there about once a week or so to see how it's coming along, and they're getting all the racks installed and lots of solar, and it's going to be close to 30 acres covered with solar. So pretty exciting to see that happening, and that'll be part of our portfolio. There's also the Hydesville project that I mentioned that's going to be coming online soon. By the end of this year, we expect the battery storage component that's being added to the Sandrini 100 megawatt project in Kern County to be up and running, and that will make that project a lot more valuable to us, because that'll allow us to control what time of day the power is dispatched to the grid. So we're not just adding to the solar glut in the middle of the day, but putting it onto the grid when it's needed in the evening.
I have a question for you.
Yes.
For the biomass, I know there's like a certain percentage that's used for, I believe it's in Scotia. There's
Yes.
like and I'm wondering if as an organization, y'all are looking to move away from that, or what the plan is, because I know it burns fairly dirty.
Yeah, we have had that project under contract since we launched our program in 2017. We have community members that have concerns about the emissions from the plant and come talk to our board about that frequently. We consult closely with the Air Resources Board, particularly with the Air Quality Management District here in Eureka. They share with, or actually the Humboldt Sawmill Company itself shares with us all their notices of violation that they get. So we we keep an eye on how it's going, and we talk with the air district folks, and they don't see the company as a bad actor. When they get issued notices of violation, they do address what's happening and get the plant back in compliance. So it's not like it's really chronically out of compliance with air district rules. So on that basis, we continue to procure from them. We do have a clause in our contract that was included kind of by popular demand that says, if they're found to, be seriously out of compliance, that is grounds that we could use to terminate the contract. Because we're not really hearing concerns from like residents around the plant, and because, to the extent that we see, just ambient air quality data that's collected in that area that you can look at on Purple Air and such, it doesn't really look like there's like a correlation of high particulate matter with when the plant is running. We do see, these air quality sensors will spike up with high particulate matter when there's local wildfires happening. That certainly shows up on the instrumentation, but to the extent we've looked at it, we're not really seeing that happening so much just from the plant's operation. Having said all that, yes, we do have it in our strategic plan to get away from relying on direct combustion of biomass. There are other ways you could use biomass that would be cleaner. There's newer state-of-the-art plants that do what's called gasification, which has much lower emissions than just burning it in a Rankine cycle type boiler system like they have at HSC. And it's an older plant, so I think, it's as power plants go, it's an older one, and I think it's, days are probably numbered. So I think the company themselves have been investigating what else they could do in lieu of continuing to operate that plant. They still have this, large waste management matter with sawdust and chips and everything at the plant. So they're investigating and getting some grant funding from CAL FIRE to look at other opportunities of what they could be doing with that feedstock instead of running this aging power plant.
Thank you.
One other kind of big thing that we're doing now is, for all the time we've operated so far, is we've been offering a direct just set discount below PG&E rates, which doesn't necessarily relate to what it's actually costing us to procure power and run our program. We've kind of just done that because it was a simple way to set rates, and it's kind of a simple narrative for people. Look, we're cheaper than PG&E, end of story. But what we're seeing is a lot of the community choice programs like ours are moving towards cost of service rates, which is more like how a municipal utility operates, where you really, do your accounting and figure out what it's costing you to procure power, pay your staff, all the things that we need to do as an organization, and setting our rates accordingly. This could potentially result in either higher or lower rates than PG&E. I would hope that we could continue to offer substantially cheaper rates, but just to kind of ensure the long-term sustainability of our program, we think it really just makes good financial sense to set our rates rationally instead of just kind of copying whatever PG&E is doing and raising and lowering our rates whenever they do. So to that end, we've issued a solicitation for a consultant that can do a detailed rate study for us, and we hope to have somebody on board in the next few months. And if that is successful, and if our board is in agreement to it, we could be implementing cost of service rates by, like, not the beginning of this coming fiscal year, but the fiscal year following that, like July 2026. So still to be determined what comes out of that study and if our board wants to move forward with it. But we feel like that's a sound financial move to make as we mature as an organization. And then every 2 years, the state requires us to file an integrated resource plan, which just is a projection of what we plan to do over the next several years in terms of power procurement. The next cycle of that is coming due soon, so we're going to be working on that plan this summer and fall. And after that, we want to do a repetition of something we did back in 2023, which was we held a series of public forums and did a lot of public outreach to get input from the community on what they want our power portfolio to look like in the future, so we can fold that feedback into the next 2-year cycle. So that's just another thing coming up on our to-do list in the next year or so. I think that really covers the highlights of what we've been up to. I'm happy to handle any further questions you have and also take requests for future things you'd like to hear about from RCEA. We're available to come back and talk to you at whatever frequency you like.
I'm looking over the handout you gave us as well. It seems pretty thorough. Do you have any questions?
Do you get involved with electrical vehicle EV stuff in any significant way?
I personally don't work on that. It's not really within our department, but in addition to the demand side management team that I talked about, we also have an infrastructure planning team, and they're the most engaged on electric vehicles. They operate yes, we have a network of electric vehicle charging stations. There's some information about it in that handout. And we've also offered rebates on electric vehicles, charging equipment for like home charging equipment for EVs, and even we've done an e-bike rebate. So we're very engaged in that, but it's not something I personally work on.
I know in the city of Eureka, we have a lot of older homes and a lot of folks that don't necessarily have the money to update insulation. Do you guys offer like programs for that, for helping with that?
I think as far as like income limited households, that's more in RCAA's wheelhouse, the Redwood
sense.
Community Action Agency. They get funding specifically for helping income limited households. I don't think that we really have like residential weatherization program per se these days. We do offer residential energy saving kits that people can contact RCEA and ask for one of those to be sent to them, and they also get like a on the phone consultation. I was just talking to a couple recently who I just know socially, and they had called RCEA and gotten one of these consultations, and they said they spent an hour on the phone with one of our employees getting a really detailed walkthrough of their house, and then got one of these kits sent to them. It's approximately $100 worth of just materials, things like energy saving light bulbs and weather stripping and things like that are kind of do-it-yourself things people can do on their home. But I don't think we're really offering like a full weatherization service these days. There are companies in Humboldt that do that.
That makes sense. Well, we'd love to have you come at least once or twice a year. It's nice to hear from you, and I know in the past we've had a subcommittee that met with RCA as well with some regularity. So I don't know if you'd be open to us like maybe coming and meeting with you at times.
We really appreciate your interest, and I'll take that back to the office and let them know you're interested in continuing to hear from us once or twice a year.
Sweet, thank you.
Okay.
I really appreciate
Thank
your
you so much.
coming and speaking to
Thank you.
us. Have a good rest of your evening, Richard. Okay, I'm seeing report out on committee goals. I do not have anything to report out. Gentlemen?
I just have a little bit. I found a little information about the electrification of the fleet.
Sweet.
This was studies was made by the Charlotte, North Carolina, but they found that the procurement of vehicles was more expensive, but the overall operating cost was much lower. The one particular vehicle saved them 67% cost per mile and operational savings of $11,000 a year. And taking a look at one particular vehicle, out of 14,000 miles, the greenhouse gas reduction was minus 49%, operational savings 18 to 21,000, total cost of ownership change at 9 to 12,000, and the total cost was a negative 21%. So not only is there an environmental plus to it, but it's also cheaper.
And I know one of the concerns for City of Eureka was with the Ford F-150s that are being purchased, there's proof of the concept that the resale value is high. But I believe at this point, EV vehicles have been showing a pretty solid resale value as well. But that might be something for, I believe you and I are doing this together. So we could investigate that too and try and, I can work on getting some data about resale value of EVs because I think it's easy to prove that they have high resale value. So I'll work on that.
I had a small update on the work with Humboldt Waste Management to publicize and educate food waste composting item. I reached out to Robin with the City of Eureka, and she said the city is in ongoing sole source negotiations with Recology on a countywide level and yet to reach an agreement on the terms. They're hoping to roll out the program late 2026. And at that point is when we'll be pretty heavily engaging and educating the public. So right now there wasn't a whole lot for this group to do, but sit tight because it'll be coming.
That's awesome. Yeah, and I think part of the problem with educating the public on the food waste program is that works well for folks who have the ability to do backyard composting, but not so much for folks that don't. So there's a little... But so would we not be able to, I actually don't remember what we were discussing with educating the public, but it does seem like for the folks that could do backyard composting, we could do
Yeah, I think a lot of
surrounding
the, from what I'm familiar with, which is very little, it's the whole process of, a whole nother bin that's going to be collected and, so just a change in practice for residents and how they, clean up after dinner each night and just a different way of doing things. So I think that's going to be the education that, that now in the city, you're going to have a bin for compost and what that looks like. Do the rates change? And
That makes sense.
Is there an explicit intent to use it for methane generation or?
that I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's a good question what the capture will look like on it. Because I think with the larger commercial versions, you have to have some sort of capture happening. I believe there's state laws about that. Well, anything else? All right, seeing no other business. If anybody has anything that they want to get on the next agenda, please send it out. And sorry, scrolling. Next meeting, Monday, June 2nd at 5 p.m. And I think that's it. Have a good night, y'all.